Welcome back to another BlazBlue homework video. Honestly, it's nothing really big, and I think this might be my shortest homework video, considering the fact that the topic I'm going to be talking about today is BlazBlue Spiral Shift, Hero of the Frozen Blade, or Hyoujin no Eiyuu. Now, BlazBlue Spiral Shift is yet another light novel that hasn't been translated as of yet, and it chronicles Jin Kisaragi's stories during the Ikaruga Civil War. And the only reason I'm even looking at this is because I still want to know. It may not really mean anything for me in the grand scheme of things, but I still want to know, what happened if I just pick apart pieces from the wiki and try to figure this out. And I've done it for BlazBlue Alternative Dark War. I've already done it for BlazBlue Bledge Experience. I might do it for Phase Shift, but Phase Shift does have translations out there. So I don't know how I'm gonna do Phase Shift, because considering Phase Shift does have some translations, I don't know if I could just do a reading of those. I think that might be really boring, like even more boring than the videos I'm making now. And I don't feel like doing a reading of Phase Shift would be interesting, but I will look at it anyway because I still want to check it out. So, BlazBlue Spiral Shift, Hero of the Frozen Blade is a light novel written by Mako Komao, guys. Imagine growing with that kind of name. Oh my god. Mako Komao, detailing Jin Kisaragi's service during the Ikaruga Civil War, and was released on October 20th, 2016. The story is also connected to the manga series BlazBlue Variable Heart, and that's the one funny thing about it. It's because Variable Heart, it takes place, I think, not too long after the Ikaruga Civil War, and I think like maybe two characters in the form of Mai-Fang Lapis Lazuli, which is right here. Mai-Fang Lapis Lazuli and Tenjo Amano Hokosaka, they're connected to BlazBlue Variable Heart in a way, and obviously Spiral Shift. And Jin is also connected here. He near the end of BlazBlue Variable Heart, it ties back Jin's little backstory to during Ikaruga Civil War 2 Spiral Shift. So there's that. Synopsis: when Jin Kisaragi arrives in Ikaruga, the last act of the secret behind the Azure begins. The war between the Librarian and the rebelling Ikaruga Federation. The cruel truth that awaits Jin Kisaragi. The truth behind the Ikaruga Civil War that has been shrouded in mystery until now. A new act of history of the fighting game BlazBlue is here. Yeah, so the thing is, again, there is like literally God, what am I trying to say? There's no translations for this. And the only way I can get the story of it is to pick apart certain characters and what their involvement was in the actual light novel. Now, the characters here, there's the characters listed here. So it's Jin, there's several characters you are not familiar with, like Grimwood, Huster, Carajane, Parset, Mai-Fang, Lapis Lazuli, if you know them. So those are the characters I'll be looking at today. If they have pages about Spiral Shift on the wiki, or just mostly the Ikaruga Civil War stuff. So technically, this video is just going to be Ikaruga Civil War related. So before we even get to Spiral Shift and the characters there, we're going to look to the characters, and then we're going to look at the Ikaruga Civil War bits. So technically, this is a Spiral Shift / Ikaruga Civil War video. So let's just get that on the road. Now, I mostly wanted to look at Jin's page about the Ikaruga Civil War, but Jin doesn't really have a big entry on the Ikaruga Civil War. So I kind of just, skip to the next character, which would be Grimwood Huster. We call him Huster this whole time. So it's Huster, or Huster. The way it's pronounced, Grimwood Huster. So Huster, I guess. Captain Grimwood Huster is the leader of the Novus Orbis Librarians 9th Squadron, known as the Hound Unit. They are deployed to weaken opponents so that following squads may kill them and claim glory for doing so. He dislikes the Ikaruga Civil War and believed that it was all a farce and has connection to Kokonoe. So here he is. Pretty beefy. Like he's pretty beefy looking character. I kind of wish he was playable, but there's a reason why he isn't playable. Personality: a true leader to the troops under his command, Grimwood has no allegiance to the inner world and sees the Ikaruga Civil War for what it really was, and not a war over territory. He cares greatly for Carajane and saved her life twice from danger. He is not afraid to speak his mind, although it did cost him his life, and yet that is sad. Spoiler alert, he dies. In combat, Grimwood uses a giant axe to fight his opponents, and he is well versed in the Ars Magus as a captain of the squad in the front lines. He demonstrates good leadership and military capability, and is aware of both the strengths and weaknesses of those under his command. Despite all his strengths, he was still nowhere near a match for Mai-Fang, who had left her encounter without even so much as a scratch. Yeah, that Soix So it's when Jin confronted Mai-Fang Lapis Lazuli and BlazBlue Variable Heart with Mai Natsume, Grimwood was one of the people he was thinking about, and that is true. The one thing I did like about Variable Heart, how it connected back to like the main story of BlazBlue, because and with Remix Heart, it didn't do that much to try to like make it feel like it was a BlazBlue light novel. It just felt more like, you know, an episodic fan servicey romp, and it felt so out of place. And obviously, you know, these light novels have different different writers, and Mori does oversee them. But yeah, this Remix Heart, my bad. Remix Heart wasn't a good way to start. And what I liked about Variable Heart is that it did try to, like, Mori was the writer of Variable Heart, so it did try to tie back to, it made it feel more like a BlazBlue manga than, you know, Remix Heart ever did. So yeah, so we're gonna move on to the next character and just try to get much information as we can from the wiki before, you know, we end this video. The earliest information known about Grimwood is that he saved Carajane and Parset from a laboratory that forced people to awaken their own drives, and she was later served under him as a part of his squadron in the NOL. Towards the end of the Ikaruga Civil War, the 9th Squadron was placed in the front lines. Here they received a new member. Jin Kisaragi and the squadron were immediately deployed as a part of the emergency deployment. Their mission was to recover a Noxian Taurus that Sector 7 had stolen, but they had arrived at the laboratory 2 hours late and were attacked by the corpses inside the facility. After disposing of the Necromancer revealed to be a doll under Relius's Clover's control that was moving the corpses, the squadron left the facility. Grimwood would later tell Jin that Tenjo Amano Hokosake is the Imperator of the NOL, and that he had planned to prematurely end the war by finding the object that he believes the war revolves around and then destroy it, the object in question being Kushinada's linchpin. Thanks to Carajane, the 9th Squadron discovered the hidden interest of Kushinada's linchpin, and Grimwood ordered that Carajane and Corporal Hanoka stay behind. Obviously, you know, Hanoka being Hazma. The unit discovered ancient writings, and Grimwood believed that the enemy they are searching for to be responsible for distributing the weapons to the NOL, Sector 7, and Ikaruga. After being urged to go deeper into the facility by Jin, the squadron were separated from the former. Inside the area, the 9th Squadron were ambushed by Mai-Fang Lapis Lazuli and the Wings of Justice Division of the NOL. 3 of the squadron members were killed, and Grimwood lost to Mai-Fang's overwhelming strength. She publicly denounced him as an ally to Kokonoe, and he, in turn, called her a monster. Outraged, Mai-Fang effortlessly decapitated him. Ooh, that sucks. Just cut his head off. They had a picture of they didn't put the picture of what Grimwood looked like when he got decapitated. Like, they didn't show his decapitation, they just showed him being held up by Mai-Fang. But I'm not gonna look at that right now. Let's see where we're at. Damn it. Okay, so Grimwood's death would deeply distress Carajane and serve as a motivator for Jin to prematurely end the war. In its aftermath, Jin was ordered by Kagura Mutsuki to pursue Mai-Fang. Alongside Mai Natsume, Jin defeated her, finally avenging the 9th Squadron. While fighting her, he remembered the ordeals they had faced together and the Grimwood's death. It sounds weird to say, but yeah, that's Grimwood. Honestly, I wish they had more to Grimwood, because I find him really interesting. Again, I have to literally read the light novel to know about his character, because I can only do so much by reading the wiki. And I'm happy the wiki's here, so I'll know about it in the first place. But, you know, if I actually read the light novel, different story, you know. But yeah, that's Grimwood. And I think the only other things I gotta look up now is Mai-Fang, and I mean, there's Jin's part, but I don't need to really look up him all that much in this case. But I'll try to look him up and see if he has a character page on Spiral Shift if I look up more. Alright, so we got Carajane Parset, if I'm actually pronouncing her name right. But Carajane. So yeah. Corporal Carajane Parset. Or Parset. Wait, what? Oh, Parset. Okay, they misspelled it there. Is a member of the Novus Orbis Librarian's 9th Squadron Hound Unit. She is a drive user who has blind faith in her captain, Grimwood Huster. Although she is difficult to approach, she is loyal to those she trusts. Damn, dude, she would have been a great character in mainline, like a mainline BlazBlue game. Like, she looks awesome. Like, damn. Oh well, can't have everything. Can't have everything. Personality. To those she's unfamiliar with, Carajane can come off as cold, aloof, and sarcastic. She does not believe that many can accomplish a task that her squadron are often forced to do, and is skeptical of newer members. If I remember correctly, she was like really skeptical of Jin, because Jin was being entered into the Hound Unit at the time. You know, just Just saying that. Despite this, when she warms up to other people, her guard drops and her demeanor becomes kinder. Above all else, her loyalties lie with Grimwood, who would she go above and beyond for. Her love for her family was strong enough that she willingly sold herself, and losing them pushed her to become a soldier to avenge them. Carajane was one of the few drive users in the world. Her drive, Seagull, allowed her to sense any nearby being by placing her hands on the floor. After being tortured by the Zero Squadron, she became unable to use her drive. As a soldier assigned to the more dangerous units in the NOL, Carajane was presumably apt at ARCSYS in combat. And that's an interesting thing. Like, the drive is like the power of the soul, right? And apparently you can lose the ability to activate your drive if like something happens to you, which that's actually kind of interesting, you know. That's actually really interesting. We can look at her biography. During the Ikaruga Civil War, Carajane and her younger brothers fell on hard times. Since she was desperate for money, she willingly sold herself to a laboratory that studied souls, and it was there she was forced to awaken her drive, Seagull. Eventually, she was rescued from the facility by Captain Grimwood Huster of the NOL. But when she went back to her home, the 5th hierarchical city of Eiyuu, it had already been completely annihilated by the Noxutorus Gigan Taki Mikazuchi. Her brothers presumably killed in the blast. Carajane joined the NOL in a search for vengeance and to end the war that took her brothers' lives. She was placed under Grimwood's command in his squadron. So, near the end of the war, Jin Kisaragi was assigned to the 9th Squadron, and Carajane took an immediate dislike towards him, remarking that he wasn't needed. Shortly after their unpleasant meeting, the squadron was deployed on an emergency mission to recover a Noxic Taurus that was stolen by Sector 7, but they had arrived at the destination too late and were ambushed by the corpses in the lab. Thanks to Carajane's drive, they located the Necromancer and disposed of it. Unknown to the 9th Squadron, Relius Clover was watching nearby and took note of Jin's weapon, the Mukuro Algesco Yukiansa, and Carajane's drive. An order later came through to attack the Watersumi Castle, but Grimwood took the squadron to a diverting path to find a weapon capable of halting the flow of Seether so it could be destroyed and potentially end the war. Carajane's drive allowed them to find a suspicious interest, but she was left behind on Grimwood's orders with Corporal Hanoka and Reality Hosma. Yeah, Hosma, I don't know if like this is the one thing I don't know about Hosma. Like he goes under the name Hosma Hanoka. So I don't know if the Hanoka part is just like, you know, him just, you know, just a name he gave himself, or just like an actual name Terami gave Hosma or something like that. I don't know. I think he only took that name just to, like, you know, be under the skies in the war or something like that. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I have to like actually read the damn light novel. Before long, Carajane was captured by the NOL Zero Squadron led by Mai-Fang Lapis Lazuli and was interrogated because of Grimwood's ties to Kokonoe. The torture inflicted on her left her in such a state that she was permanently incapable of activating her drive. The death of Grimwood would deeply affect her, and Jin later visited her in the hospital. It is unknown what happened to Carajane after the Ikaruga Civil War. She stayed with the NOL after her torture and Grimwood's murder. In its aftermath, Jin hunted down Mai-Fang under the orders of Kagura Mutsuki. Alongside Mai Natsume, he defeated her, finally avenging the 9th Squadron. You know, the one thing I did like about this whole thing about Carajane is that, like, I never knew, like, you know, if you could get tortured, like, you know, it can mess you up so bad you can't use your drive anymore. And, you know, Carajane already had like a shit life to begin with, and the fact that her family was already on hard times, so she's like, okay, fine, I'm gonna sell myself to a lab, and then they forced her to work on her drive through experiments. Then she gets placed in the war, and then like she loses her captain, the person she really looked up to, and then she gets tortured and then loses her drive. I really feel sorry for Carajane, for a character I barely know, in regards of, something like BlazBlue, where you like playable characters where you know them a lot. I really feel sorry for Carajane. Like, it's sad. Like her whole story is just really, really sad. Now, the thing about Mai-Fang is that she is not only the main antagonist. Oh wait, it says it right here. She's the main antagonist of BlazBlue Variable Heart and major antagonist of Spiral Shift. Anyway, not only she's the main antagonist for Spiral Shift, but she also is for Variable Heart. And I talked about Mai-Fang a lot in the Variable Heart video I made, so I really don't need to talk about her character bits in this video in regards to Variable Heart. The only thing I really need to say about her is, in regards to this video, is what she started out as and what her deal was with in the Ikaruga Civil War, right? And I don't want to read her entire character page because the variable heart stuff. I guess I could because the variable heart stuff is tied to Spiral Arts, so I guess this is only one character, so I guess it ain't no big deal. Anyway, Mai-Fang Lapis Lazuli is a colonel in the Novus Orbis Librarian and the leader of the Zeroth Squadron. She was a great threat during the Ikaruga Civil War and had murdered and tortured many people to achieve her goals. Mai-Fang is the main antagonist of BlazBlue Variable Heart and the major antagonist of BlazBlue Spiral Shift, hero of the Frozen Blade. She was revealed for BlazBlue Alternative Dark War on the 26th of May, 2021. Honestly, I like her design. I'm not a fan of her character, but I do like her design, right? I do like her design. The one thing about Mai-Fang that kind of bothers me, at least in regards of like Variable Heart, is she didn't like she started out really good in Variable Heart. She just started like really, really good. She had like a good presence. She was basically looming over Mai as she traveled throughout the world and whatnot. And when it came to her defeat, it was really rushed, and I kind of feel bad for that because I actually was really enjoying Mai-Fang. You know, I was actually really enjoying Mai-Fang as a character until they kind of rushed her defeat. I wish they had more to her, but I wasn't really expecting her to get the level of like, you know, character and insanity like characters like Relius, Izanami, or Terami / Hosman get. So, you know, whatever. A masochist without remorse for her victims, Mai-Fang was devoid of most emotions and only sought to do what she believed was right. The only goal she had was to make Izanami come into the world, and she cared for little else. Everyone around here is disposable in her eyes, no matter how important they may be and how affectionate she may have seemed toward them in the past. Mai-Fang has deeply rooted feelings for Tenjo and Amano Hokusaka, willing to do anything and everything for her and her goals in life. She was disgusted with the Ikaruga Civil War and why it began, finding the pursuit of a black beast's power foul. To this end, Mai-Fang believes that only way to protect Tenjo was with power. That's so hard to say that. Is with power to fight against power. In her own time, Mai-Fang enjoys gardening. Is it funny? It's like, yeah, I have no remorse. I don't give a shit about anyone. I only care about Tenjo. I hate everyone, and yet I love the garden. I guess everyone evil. I guess even the most evil person has, you know, something they love doing. Mai-Fang is a deft user of ARCSYS and has displayed several abilities exclusive to her, such as Painkiller, which makes her completely immune to all forms of pain. It doesn't seem to be an ability she can turn off, however, as she enjoys the pain which is inflicted upon her. As well as this, she is capable of using a mysterious technique that allows her to instantly deal a blow strong enough to punch a hole clean through the average person. Additionally, she's able to use strengthening ARCSYS on her body, which can even block attacks from outsealed. Isn't that kind of crazy, all that shit she can just do? In BlazBlue Alternative Dark War, Mai-Fang primarily fights using strikes with her hands and legs. She demonstrates her powers with kicks, which can launch the opponent to the air, and her flexibility with high kicks that reach above her head. Like one thing I want to talk about is flexibility. Is like I tried getting my leg up off the ground. I can never get my leg even just straight enough to justify getting off the ground. I am not flexible. Despite all her powers, according to Horichiro Hazuki, Mai's father, it's disgraceful to the Hazuki name that Mai was defeated by Mai-Fang and that the latter is weak. Yes, sir. In an interview with the series creator Toshimichi Mori in the BlazBlue Central Fiction official setting material collection, he described having developed Mai-Fang as a character who should be worthy of the role of villain. He explained that this was done by giving her depth and making her understandable despite having chosen the wrong methods. I get what Mori was going for, but Mai-Fang, I get what he's going for with the Mai-Fang's backstory. But the thing about Mai-Fang's backstory in regards of why she's the way she is kind of doesn't. I'm not gonna act like I'm a good person to tell you stuff like this, because I even have struggles of trying to get character writing done, so it's just a struggle. But Mai-Fang's crazy masochistic no remorse shit to what she was back in the day. I've read Variable Heart over and over again, and it kind of feels a little bit disjointed to how she's supposed to work. And the thing that works with characters like let's say Relius doesn't need to do much to show that he's not a good dude. He's definitely worthy of the role of being villain, or someone like Terami, or someone like Hazama, or Izanami, even to an extent Izanami. Like, Mai-Fang just doesn't work because she didn't have the time to she didn't have the time to work out what like, she was interesting, don't get me wrong, but like she didn't have enough time to simmer a bit, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And anyway, Mai-Fang's unusual attack that creates large holes, as ever explained in the series, is also copied by Ren Hazuki at one point, but when they met is unknown. Yeah, that's another thing I found weird. I've always thought that could be her drive, because Painkiller technically isn't her drive, as far as I'm aware of. But anyway, on BlazBlue Alternative Dark War, Mai-Fang has a moveset, a theming name based around torture and devices used for it. Well, that's just... Mai-Fang shares her birthday March 3rd with Ragna the Blood Edge. Huh. That's disturbing. 15 years before the end of the Ikaruga Civil War, the Lapis Lazuli family was a weak, noble family. Mai-Fang's father saw her as little more than a tool to help increase her family's social status. One day, while meeting with nobles at the NOL headquarters, Mai-Fang got sick of it and went outside. In the garden, Mai-Fang saw Tenjo and called her beautiful. Tenjo, however, assumed that she was talking about the garden. Tenjo, oh yeah, that's why she likes gardening, because that's where she met Tenjo at. God damn it. Tenjo asked Mai-Fang to introduce herself, and she did so, with Tenjo saying that Mai-Fang had a good name. Suddenly, a young Kagura Mutsuki appeared and put a sword to Mai-Fang's throat, demanding to know who she was. However, Tenjo punched Kagura in the head and told him that he was being rude to her guest. Horichiro Hazuki then arrived and hit Kagura as well, dragging him away and apologizing to the Imperator. From then on, Mai-Fang spoke with Tenjo in the garden every time she visited NOL headquarters. However, the year Mai-Fang entered the military academy, the Ikaruga Civil War began. The last time Mai-Fang met Tenjo, she told Mai-Fang that the war happened because of her own weakness. After that, Tenjo was moved to a safe place and Mai-Fang was unable to see her. After graduating from the military academy, Mai-Fang joined the Ikaruga Civil War to try and end it, but the destruction of Ibukido occurred. Mai-Fang broke down, wanting to know why something like that happened if the Imperator didn't want conflict. Whereas Clover arrived and asked Mai-Fang why she was still alive, and she had an interesting soul. A broken Mai-Fang replied that the devil would of course be in hell, but she wouldn't hand over her soul. Ignis Clover tried to grab her, but Mai-Fang said not to touch her since her body belonged to the Imperator, so Relis decided to observe her. It's like there's no capitalization on observe, so you're just like, girl. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. Anyway, this is Relis. Of course it's wrong. Later, Mai-Fang led the Zero Squadron in an invasion of the Inner World, meeting discussing the destruction of Ibukido. Mai-Fang saw a member of Sector 7 and asked why he was there, with one of the people saying that he wished to defect. Someone else said that the Zero Squadron didn't need to get involved, so Mai-Fang killed him and commanded her men to capture everyone. You see, like, I get that Mai-Fang was broken after the events of the Ikaruga Civil War and how that's happened, but like the thing about it is how Variable Heart presents it is that it presents it kind of just there's no like many leading cause to it. Like if there was like more to her, then you can understand why she's went nuts. It's not that much to her, you know what I mean? I mean, she's not a bad character, but it could have been more to her. I mean, I feel like the thing about Variable Heart is that it's too short. Like Variable Heart is too short. Like it only had 18 chapters to like settle like everything, and at least with Radiant Heart, it had 25 for Christ's sake. So if Variable Heart literally had like 7 more chapters to flesh out Mai-Fang a little bit more, then I wouldn't have an issue. While Mai-Fang was alone, Hazama came in and was surprised that she was trying to stop the war. However, Mai-Fang laughed at him and saying the war was already over and that she was cleaning up for the Imperator and that she was creating a new world without conflict. I don't know, killing everyone is going to stop that. At some point, Mai-Fang began to open up various facilities to command the Fuzzy line of vampires. Oh yeah, I mean, Fuzzy didn't appear in... Well, Fuzzy didn't appear in God, the spiral shifts. I'm not even gonna bother with that one. There's the picture. That was the picture I was looking for earlier. To her and Grimwood. Yeah, right after she cut his head off. Okay, here we go. Just as the Ikaruga Civil War was about to end, Mai-Fang had been tipped, presumably by Hazama, about this 9th Squadron coming too close to discovering Kushinada's linchpin and their leader, Grimwood Huster, colliding with Sector 7 and Kokonoe. She found him and personally wiped out most of his squad and held Grimwood by his neck in front of their newest recruit, Jin Kisaragi. Grimwood insulted her and Mai-Fang, without hesitation, decapitated him. So sorry. She later knocked out Jin and then presumably ordered the torture of Kaizou at Parset. It's weird. Why is she, like, the thing about weird is, like, she killed Grimwood out of anger, right? But Mai Shin tried to kill, Karen Gina. I guess she, tortured her because, she had information on Kokonoe. But Mai Shin tried to kill Jin, at least. But then again, I'm just reading off a page. It could very well be much different in a light novel. So, immediately following the conclusion of the Civil War, Mai-Fang begins taking interest in the Hazuki heir, Mai Natsume. She had tricked her into coming into a storage unit in which she declared that she wanted Mai's body. Mai-Fang was preparing to assault her, but her blow was blocked by Kagura Mutsuki. Not being deterred, Mai-Fang defeated her fellow general and chased after Mai, who met up with Hyoujin Feikai. To her surprise, Mai was now wielding the legacy weapon Galliaciferous Outseal. The two bowed, but Mai was teleported away by Kokonoe, the latter knowing that Mai would be unable to fight Mai-Fang and live otherwise. Later on, Hazuma paid Mai-Fang a visit while she was bathing. She complimented him for giving her information on Mai and her no-name Grimwood. He told her that he was interested in what she was transported to the 13th hierarchical city of Kagatsuchi, promising her to exit the bath and ask him to get out of her way. More teasing from Hazuma about her love for pain, yet inability to feel it, causing her to kick him, but this made Yuki Terumi appear and he began strangling her while telling her that he would cut her up and feed her to pigs. Mai-Fang began laughing and lamenting how it might hurt. Their encounter was cut short as an NOL officer entered the room and both Hazuma and Terumi disappeared. Mai-Fang ordered him to awaken the 16th Fuzzy, and that information had been leaking. Honestly, I'm trying to avoid variable heart stuff, but I have to talk about Mai-Fang because she is an important part of both series. So, yeah. Again, like if you want to see my variable heart stuff, I have a variable heart video that I might link. If I remember to link it below when I'm done with this, I will. Mai-Fang would later be seen in the outskirts of Kagatsuchi investigating how the train carrying Belle had suddenly stopped and why she was missing. She inspected the snow, wondering if it was why communications were down, and began asking nearby NOL officers questions about what happened. One of them spoke about being presented papers that looked as if they were signed by the Imperator, but his tone annoyed Mai-Fang and she executed him on the spot. She spoke down to the other officers, reminding them that speaking badly of the Imperator is treason and punishable by death. Fuzzy appeared and hugged Mai-Fang, and they used ARCSYS to share information. She left Fuzzy to deal with the officers as she had branded them traitors. Wow, that sucked. Yeah, I remember that. I forgot. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, oh my god. Mai-Fang began making her way to a facility that she believed Jubei would be infiltrating. Mai-Fang would return to the outskirts, finding that Fuzzy was fighting Mai, Kaizou, Ragnar the Blood, Shara Sasuga, and Shiori Kirihito. She blocked an attack from Mai, taking the blow of Outseal onto the palm of her hand, shocking Kaizou, who thought it was impossible. Mai-Fang explained that she used ARCSYS to stop it from piercing her skin, but it still damaged her arm. After confronting Fuzzy, she turned... Damn, I am so dumb. After comforting Fuzzy, she turned to Ragnar, being shocked that the Asher Grimoire would be present. The Zero Squadron had arrived and surrounded them all, and Mai-Fang ordered that Belle, Ragnar, and Mai be captured, and that the others should taste the best hell. Sadly for her, however, Rachel Alucard appeared and teleported the group away from Mai-Fang and her squadron. Because of Fuzzy's failure to complete his mission, Mai-Fang disposed of him and used the data he accumulated to overwrite the 17th and 18th unit of an unknown line. On an airship, Mai-Fang received a report from Hazuma that Mai was with the Hazuki family, and that Mai-Fang said it was as she thought. She ordered her men to continue surveillance. She then said that she knew Horiichiro and Rin Hazuki would get in her way one day, and she started figuring out how to deal with them. She soon awakened the other Fuzzy units, having them bring Belle to her at the cauldron in the 11th hierarchical city of Shinatsu, who was followed by Mai. She gleefully stared at the captured girls. She toyed with them and revealed her goal to create another Gigon Takemi Kazuchi using No Name and Belle. Briefly being contracted by Kokonoe and threatening to destroy Sector 7 the instant she would gain control of the Nox. Mai-Fang and the Fuzzy were soon interrupted by Jin, who froze one of the vampires. It's funny that you could just create Takemi Kazuchi now. Like, I know you could just create the Black Beast by, combining an Azure Grimoire and a Murakumo unit. So, I don't know. I just find that really funny. You just create Takemi Kazuchis now. Let's just create a bunch of them. We can create Black Beast. We can create a Takemi Kazuchi. Mai-Fang asked Jin if she had come to capture Mai, but he told her he was instead sent to arrest the colonel herself on grounds of treason. She did not take the threat lightly and laughed at him for his personal motives, recalling the 9th Squadron and how she dealt with them. The fight between herself and Jin reached a climax as Mai launched Outseal toward her, puncturing a large hole in her shoulder and landing a major to freeze parts of her. Having sustained a lot of damage, Mai-Fang was losing her mental stability. She commanded the Fuzzy to complete the plan to create a Nox. They broke down the pieces of soul they broke down into the pieces of soul that they are, and Mai-Fang was able to create a phantom field after being commanded by Terumi to hate everything. Inside her creative phantom field, Mai-Fang walked towards Mai, being surrounded by flames and corpses. She told her she intended to make conflict extinct, to create a peaceful world that Tenjo would have wanted, her method being by force. Taro, Shiori, and Hyoujin were teleported to the field, and Mai battled against the four of them before finally being killed by Mai. Upon passing away, she saw a vision of Tenjo. As she died, Mai-Fang began to realize that her true desire was to relive the day she spent with Tenjo, not to kill all who opposed her. And that was Mai-Fang's entire story. My throat hurts. Oh my god. Alright, here we have is Tenjo Amano Hokusaka. And technically I do have to, because Tenjo's a lot, like, literally all of Tenjo's story is really in Spiral Shift, so, you know, well, not just Spiral Shift, but, you know, most of it. Tenjo Amano Hokusaka, commonly referred to as Lord Tenjo, is one of the previous imperators of the Novus Orbis Librarium, the leader of the Ikaruga Federation, and a member of the Amano Hokusaka clan. She is the mentor of Bang Shishigami and Kagura Mutsuki, and is the mother of Homura Amano Hokusaka. She was assassinated during the Ikaruga Civil War by Jin Kizarugi. Now, so the funny thing about all this is like, this is that Tenjo has large, deep red eyes and long purple hair, white skin, pale lips, and eyelashes the same color as her hair. Her eyelids look like they fall off at any moment, and most will think she was beautiful. To Jin Kizarugi, she looks exactly like his sister Saya. So is it kind of funny that Izanami, right? Izanami is possessing Saya's body, right, as its vessel, right? And it so happens that Tenjo looks like Saya, has purple hair and red eyes as well. So yeah, Izanami being swapped out for Tenjo as an Imperator, it was just like a match made in heaven, I guess. Anyway, personality. Tenjo is a gracious and dignified leader who wishes nothing more than peace and tranquility for not just her citizens, but also those she meets. She loves Ikaruga and her people. Tenjo cares greatly for Bang and Kagura and deeply loves Homura. Her general demeanor betrays her motherhood, as she is outwardly material with those she spends time with. Her kindness and leadership qualifies, inspires her citizens and loyalties of Bang, Kagura, and Mai-Fang, even years after her death. A death she showed no fear facing. Tenjo's a G. She's a real G. Despite her positions as the former Imperator of the NOL and the leader of the Ikaruga Federation, Tenjo despises violence. The Ikaruga Civil War weighed heavily on her conscience as she felt powerless to stop and ultimately blamed herself for its start. True conflict makes her heart ache, but she enjoys sparring and the cultivation of technique. In her spare time, Tenjo loves looking at flowers and practicing her calligraphy. She wishes to have someone she could talk with about the latter. That's actually kind of cute. I like that. Her speech pattern is full of archaic language and phrases. I kind of like that. I don't know, like Tenjo seemed like a really nice character who just met a messed up end, and she really felt like she took a lot of blame on it. And Tenjo felt like a really good person, but you know, this is BlazBlue. This is the world of BlazBlue. You can't be a good, wholesome person in the world of BlazBlue. You can't. You'll die for it, or just you won't be taken seriously. That's the sad thing about the world of BlazBlue. You will not be taken seriously. An arts user who practices the use of yin-yang magic, Tenjo uses charms to fight and is able to use them to combat opponents. She can turn these charms into knives, causing them to conjure pillars of fire or raise spiked earth from the ground. Tenjo can further use these talismans to conjure lightning or even lift herself up in the air, forming a barrier beneath her feet, which keeps her levitated above the ground. As well as this, Tenjo is a strong user of ARCSYS, as she has the ability to use both Deus Machina Nirvana and Phoenix for Tenjo, two Nocturus level weapons. Tenjo has a weak body and uses her mask as a filter for Seether. Despite her physical frailty, she has a remarkably strong soul, remaining inside both the Tenjo and Kushina's linchpin, and is able to activate the latter. As her dreams were taken from her by Ragna, it is possible that even after her death, she was marked as one of the chosen. Alright, time for some trivia. In the Japanese version of all games, Tenjo's gender was never disclosed, and in the English localization, she was considered male before the release of BlazBlue Spiral Shift. Hero of the Frozen Blade confirmed that Tenjo was a woman. As a result, Tenjo's library entry of localization uses male pronouns. In Japanese, it is gender neutral. Cool. Since BlazBlue claiming trigger, Tenjo has been referenced to mainly by Bang Shishigami. She made her first physical appearance during sequences in BlazBlue Variable Hard. The time between her being mentioned and making her first appearance was 9 years. 8 years. I said 9. I said 9. 8 years. Damn. Tenjo is one of the handful of characters who stayed to use magic after the Dark War. She uses her magical preference, yin-yang magic, with Amano Hokusaka. The Reifu, a type of talisman used for divination and protection that the Amano Hokusaka clan, particularly Tenjo, uses, has the ghost constellation stylized on the top, representing the aspect of fire, and the vermilion phoenix Suzaku. The central portion below has a signal depicting Phoenix for Tenjo, and at the lowest section is the vertical talisman, has the Azure Shrine Maiden sigil. When activated by a user of Yin Yang Arts, the Japanese script for Amano Hokusaka is written vertically over the two sections, and a sigil of cross nails, similar to Bang's crest, is drawn in red ink over the Azure Shrine Maidens. That's actually pretty extreme, but I love it. Born to the Amano Hokusaka clan, Tenjo became the Imperator at a young age and took on two students, Kagura Mutsuki and Bang Shishigami, with both becoming members of her own personal guard. During one meeting with the nobles, Tenjo grew sick of it and decided to walk into the gardens of the household to relax. There she met Mai-Fang Lapis Lazuli, the child of a lesser noble family. Kagura interrupted him and Tenjo punched him over the head for being rude to her guest. Hoichiro did the same and carried him away. Over the years, both Tenjo and Mai-Fang grew close as they would sometimes spend days walking through gardens. The details are unknown, but the body Tenjo was in was a vessel she was possessing. What? What? Okay, that was random. Okay, so the body. Oh, okay, never mind. Whatever. I'm not gonna think about that right now. At some point, she had met a man with brown hair, and they had a child together, Homura Amano Hokusaka. She would regularly have meetings with the duo Destin. So, how old is Tenjo? Like, how old is Tenjo? Like, how old is Tenjo really, right? Because, like, if that was a body she was possessing when she was younger during the Amano... Yeah, I'm not gonna start. In the Ikaruga Civil War, a coup d'etat was performed that removed Tenjo from her seat of power by Hazuma, Yuki Terumi, and Relius Clover. She formed the Ikaruga Federation, created an alliance with Sector 7, and the Inner declared war against her. At one point, they were winning the war, but Tenjo had wished to end the war without casualty. The committee pressured for the war to continue, and she was forced to. Rumors had circulated at the time she wore a mask to hide a huge scar over her face. She had planned to transfer her soul to the Noxmic Taurus Deus Machina Nirvana, but Relius stole it and she was unable to do so. She went down to the basement of the Wazumi Castle and looked at Kushina's linchpin and Phoenix from Tenjo, taking the latter as she knew it was the last thing she could transfer her soul into, even if it meant living a life where she could not feel anything. Tenjo transferred her soul but remained in control of her former body, carrying herself out of the area. Later on, Tenjo would give the Retenjo with her soul inside to Bang and issued for her ninjas to evacuate the castle, but Bang stayed by his mistress's side. Jin Kisaragi stormed the castle using the Mukra Algesco Yukiansa and fought Bang, leaving him permanently scarred and froze the entire room using his Arctic dungeon technique. Tenjo talked to Jin while Bang screamed for her to escape, but she stayed and asked him to kill her and to fight against the death that will be born. She threw a charm at him, begging him to kill her. Jin used his Yukikaze technique and killed Tenjo's old body. Jin's memories were erased by Terumi, and Tenjo's old body was replaced by someone with a huge scar on her face to match the rumors. After the war had ended, Mai-Fang desperately clung to the dream of making conflict extinct, all in remembrance of Tenjo's ideals. This would be done by making a Noxmic Taurus. In her final moment, she saw a vision of Tenjo and confessed that her true dreams were just to be by her side. Bang finally came to realize that Tenjo's soul lay inside of the Tenjo he had been gifted years earlier. Rachel Alucard came to the realization that there was another way to activate the linchpin without using Celica A Mercury's soul as the catalyst. Tenjo's soul was used instead, and the Retenjo was hammered into the linchpin, stopping the flow of Seether. Tenjo's soul was still anchored inside the linchpin inside the embryo. Ragnar Blood took Tenjo's dream using his soul eater and promised her that he would look after the people of Ikaruga, Bang, and most importantly, Homura. Like, imagine a timeline where that actually happened. Alright, this might be a long one, but this is the Ikaruga Civil War part of the video. Now, again, I'm not gonna, I can't keep making this a web of, terminologies to look up. Honestly, this is just spiral shift related. And the Ikaruga Civil War is spiral shift related. So, there we go. The Ikaruga Civil War was a conflict between the Ikaruga Federation and the Novus Orbis Librarium that began in 2191 and ended in June of 2197. Publicly, the conflict began after the Ikaruga Federation announced her independence from the Inner Well, but in reality, the war was only a front for experiments occurring on both sides, which dragged the war for almost 6 years. Sector 7 aimed to create a Kusanagi, while the Inner Well wished to cause enough deaths to awaken Izanami. Poor Watasumi Castle. Burning down, burning down. This was the first time that Ars Magus was used by humanity against itself on such a large scale, and the second time to use Ars Magus at all. For this reason, it became known as the Second War of Ars Magus. Prior to the start of the war under the NOL's rule, those who possessed the ability to use Ars Magus began to be given preferential treatment, with higher aptitudes leading to better treatment. Since Ars Magus aptitude was decided by genetics, this led to discomfort and dissatisfaction among the population of those who had little to no aptitude. By 2190, the socioeconomic gap between those who could and couldn't use Ars Magus was widened considerably. Eventually, possibly unrelated to the descent, the fifth hierarchical city of Ibukido began to move independently of the NOL. In 2191, Ibukido allied itself with 5 other hierarchical cities in the Ikaruga region: Yabiko, Kazumotsu, Wadasumi, Akisu-ko, and Akisu-otsu. Together, the allied hierarchical cities began to declare themselves as the Ikaruga Federation. However, this declaration of independence was not acknowledged by the NOL, who moved to oppress the Federation. This began the Ikaruga Civil War. Around this time, Sector 7 began experiments of what they believed were to create a black beast, but which were instead to create a Kusanagi. Sector 7's committee believed that they had orchestrated the war in order to collect enough souls to create a black beast, but in reality they were being manipulated by both Relius Clover and Yuki Terumi. There was a period of the war that is ambiguous. Tenjo Amano Hokusaka was the Imperator of the NOL, but at one point she was overthrown by Relius and Terumi. Since the identity of Imperator was only known to the heads of the duodecim, the swap went unnoticed by the public. Tenjo became the head of the Ikaruga Federation. It is unknown if the Federation's rebellion was Tenjo's retaliation or if she became their head after the Federation had already formed and declared its independence. Regardless, throughout the war, she was publicly known as only the leader of the Federation. Her identity as the former Imperator of the NOL was kept a closely regarded secret by Hoichiro Hazuki, Kagura Mutsuki, and the others in the know. Tenjo remained in contact with those loyal to her within the NOL, especially Kagura, and positioned herself in the Wadasumi for most of the war. An alliance formed between Kagura, Kokonoe, and Tenjo, kept secret from the respective organizations, the NOL, Sector 7, and the Ikaruga Federation. In 2192, the Ikaruga Federation began to expand its territory, resulting in greater conflict with the NOL. The Federation formed a relationship with Sector 7. The committee used a laboratory deep within Ibukido to conduct experiments for the Black Beast, their intentions possibly hidden from the Federation, although Tenjo resented the relationship altogether. Around this time, some began to suspect the war itself. The sheer military might of the NOL should have been able to raise the Ikaruga region within a few weeks, but the NOL was hesitant to end the war with only skirmishes occurring. The war saw the use of experimental weapons as well as the Knife Squadron, a sacrificial NOL unit meant to weaken the Ikaruga Federation's forces so that other units could take the glory and receive promotions. In 2192, Yuki Terumi launched an attack on Selka A. Mercury's church. Although this event did not directly involve the NOL or the Ikaruga Federation, it was an important event that happened during the war and was linked to it. Terumi and Relius Clover desired Saya, a young artificial human living at the church, to act as a vessel for Izanami. She would also serve as the basis for the creation of the boundary interface prime field device numbers 11 to 13, 2 of which were made in the Ibukido experiments. Prior to the attack, Terumi mentally assaulted Saya and gave her to Naxune Taurus Mukuro Algesco Yukianaza. She then gave it to her older brother Jin Kisaragi. When the barriers surrounding the church broke down, Terumi entered, observing himself so he could maintain a physical form, and murdered the nun, Selka A. Mercury, who was looking after the church. He then kidnapped Saya and Jin, setting the church on fire. Their elder brother, later Ragna, returned to the church to see it in flames just as Terumi was about to leave. Terumi ordered Jin to cut off his brother's arm and then left Ragna to die. He returned with Sai to the NOL, where she disappeared until he had become a vessel for Izanami. Jin was abandoned but was soon adopted by the Kisaragi family. The eldest brother survived and later became known as Ragna the Blood Edge. The Phenomenon Weapon Disposition Operation. That's a name, holy shit. Circa 2193, the NOL excavated the Naxune Taurus Deus Machina Nirvana. While they were still retrieving it, Relius Clover, colonel of the engineering department of the NOL, spoke to Sector 7's committee and to Kokonoe about the possibility of creating a Naxune Taurus, claiming he would reward them with a prime field device for their efforts. Additionally, Tenjo, possessing the ability to transfer her soul between vessels, sensed that her time was near and intended to extend her life using Nirvana. Sector 7 then hired Bullet's mercenary squad to retrieve a Naxune Taurus Deus Machina Nirvana. The squadron was sent to the 4th hierarchical city of Naobi, which was under the control of the NOL. One of the members of the squad, Bullet, was left behind due to an injury she had sustained earlier. The rest of the squad managed to retrieve the Nox, but met with the NOL, who had come to finish the excavation, and a battle occurred. Azrael, also hired by the committee, appeared and destroyed both forces, but not before the leader of Bull's squad dealt a blow to the Mad Dog and managed to escape with the Nox in tow. Azrael's appearance was likely to cause more deaths than the committee, so a Black Beast could be created. Kokonoe found the squad's leader on the brink of death and took him in, but her life-saving surgery drastically changed his appearance. He was injected with demon cells, the only thing that could regenerate his cells, and later became known as Iron Tiger. During one brief stint of consciousness before his surgery, he asked that his memories be sealed away. She had promised to find a way to reverse his condition and turn back into a normal human, and as a result, Tiger became unaware of his life prior to being in Kokonoe's service. The professor later told Tiger that he was a victim of the burning fields of Ikaruga. Lychee also became Kokonoe's assistant around this time. And look at that, we gotta talk about the burning fields of Ikaruga. In the labs beneath Ibukido, Sector 7 acquired Lambda 11, a prime field created by Relius. She was the first of the prime fields based off of Saya, but she was not used for combat, and they did not attempt to make her a Kusanagi. Instead, she was relentlessly experimented on to the point where she was essentially tortured. Tenjo resented the use of the experiments and planned to use Kushina's linchpin to stop Terami and Relius from creating a Black Beast. Oh look, a video, but I can't do that yet. Shit. On the 25th of December 2094, Christmas Day, scientists involved in the Ibukido experiments began the final phase to smelt Mood 12. The process went smoothly at first, with Hazama attempting to fuse with Mood, but she rejected him, and the two were unable to create a Kusanagi. The Takamagahara system then caused the Nox stick towards the Ganatake Mikazuchi, which had been orbiting the Earth as a satellite after the Dark War, to fire upon Ibukido. The devastating result was the razing of the entire Hakugo city, once one of the largest cities on the planet, in an instant. The event was later known as the Burning Fields of Ikaruga. Nearly everyone in the city at the time was killed by the blast, although there were survivors such as Mood and Lambda. Mood lost her memories and forgot her origins, but was soon found and adopted by Edgar and Claire Vermillion, who christened her Noelle Vermillion. Lambda, thought to be dead, was left to rot within the facility. Sometime afterwards, Kokonoe sent Tiger to the facility where the experiments occurred. He retrieved Lambda and took her back to Sector 7, where Kokonoe would spend the next few years preparing her. Although the destruction of Ibukido was due to the Takamagahara system, the public believed it was by the NOL, and what started as a war became a demonstration of the NOL's power. In 2196, the Federation tried to negotiate for peace, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. The NOL had retaken most of Kazumotsu and Yabiko after the destruction of Ibukido, but Watsubi remained a battlefield and was inaccessible. Incidents of looting increased from... looting? Damn, I said rooting, what the shit? Incidents of looting increased from those who lost their homes, and refugees began trying to migrate to Yabiko and Kazumotsu. Protests in Kazumotsu, where the NOL had a strong presence, began to spiral out of control, and the officials there began to expect a massive civilian uprising after the looting of various Ars Magus vessels. Kaizouwar and Hibiki moved to have the refugees transported to the 13th hierarchical city of Kagasuchi, which was still undergoing construction. How crazy, I spent this entire time reading that finally made it to the spiral shift part. Jin graduated from the military academy in January of 2197 and became a member of the military with the rank of first lieutenant. At some point, he accidentally came into contact with Tiger at the ruins of Ibukido. When he returned to Yabiko, he was scolded by Kagura, and you see in the corner, by Kagura for moving alone. After a brief run-in with Mai-Fang Lapis Lazuli, Jin met his assistant, Corporal Honoka. The two were sent to the front lines under the command of Captain Grimwood Huster of the 9th Squadron. Jin also became acquainted with Corporal Carajane and Parset, and they were soon sent to fight a number of rock giants created by Sector 7. Relius returned to Sector 7 to analyze Nirvana, and in his own time was able to create the Fluctus Redectum Ignis based on Nirvana. Relius used his wife Ignis Clover and his daughter Eiyuu Clover as the identities for Ignis and Nirvana respectively, but required additional help from Sector 7 to smelt their identities. Relius then tipped the NOL about Sector 7's plan to create an Taurus, leading them to immediately attack the facility. The NOL got as far as the cauldron within the facility where the cores were being smelted, and Tiger was sent to stop the soldiers from advancing to the center of the facility. However, the cauldron went out of control, creating a miniature black beast that took the souls of both NOL and Sector 7 soldiers alike. Kokonoe was forced to use sorcery and the spell Infinite Gravity in order to seal the beast away into cores that could be harnessed by Nirvana and Ignis, or rather by the souls of Ada and Ignis Clover respectively, that were used to fuel the automatons. Before falling unconscious, Kokonoe used Nirvana to strike at Relius and managed to wound him. By the time she awoke, he had already disappeared along with both automatons. It's so weird to say that word, automatons? Anyway, Jin and the Ninth Squadron went to the laboratory to retrieve Nirvana, but were 2 hours late, and were the first to report on the situation. Kokonoe had already disappeared by this time. Relius operated a necromancer in the area to turn the corpses from a later incident into ghouls, forcing the Ninth Squadron to fight them off. Tenjo later heard about the events in the laboratory and expressed regret Kokonoe's injuries and the loss of Nirvana. She then transferred her soul into the Phoenix for Tenjo, leaving her body behind as a puppet. Kagura believed too many deaths had already occurred, but an order went through for the attack on Watatsumi in the castle where Tenjo was. The Ninth Squadron was able to detect a hidden entrance to the castle using Karajane's dry seagull. They entered, but Karajane was left behind, and Jin was forced to fight against a monster made of liquid seether. When Jin called for the rest of his squadron, he found several of them dead, and Grimwood held by the neck by Mai-Fang. This area, hidden underneath Watatsumi Castle, had a large hole with a coffin suspended above it. A conveyor belt was throwing the corpses of both Inoue and Ikaruga soldiers into it. Mai-Fang decapitated Grimwood, knocked out and incarcerated Jin, and had the Zero Squadron interrogate Carajane. Throughout the war, the Zero Squadron disposed of traitors and tortured people to get the information that the Imperator desired. Hey, look at that, we reached the end of it. Kagura put a great deal of work to rebuild Yabiko and Kazumotsu after the Inoue retook them, to the point where it's difficult to believe that it had been a battlefield 1 year prior. After being released from his cell, Jin was sent to Yabiko by the Imperator with a decree for Kagura to deploy all forces into combat and swiftly end the war. It also stated the Ikaruga region was to be sealed off from the outside. Kagura had also received a report from Taro Sasuga about Jin not being able to control the Yukiansa at the academy at one point, raising his concern about Jin. Kagura sent numerous forces, including the 8th Squadron, into battle. He positioned Jin for the sidelines so he would only fight in small skirmishes against the forces of Ikaruga in Sector 7. Tager happened upon Jin's forces and seemed to engage them before he was teleported straight to Kagura's point of command. Kagura fought him directly, passing command to Hibiki, but was bested, after which Tager teleported safely away. Kagura's injury was so serious that the Zero Squadron had no choice but to allow Hibiki to take him on Ars Maga's vessel, out of Ikaruga to the main Inoue headquarters to receive treatment. Command of the battlefield then passed to the next member of the duodecim present, Jin Kizuragi. This battle was actually completely orchestrated by Kokonoe and Kagura so that Tenjo's heir, Homura, could be smuggled out of Ikaruga, so that it could only be achieved practically with an Ars Maga's vessel. After speaking with Kagura, the young heir decided to fight for his birthright and to reclaim Ikaruga in the future and rebuild it. Jin, left in command as the only member of the duodecim left on the battlefield, decided to end the war that day and stormed Watatsumi. Yukiansa attempted to corrupt and tempt him to kill, but he was able to single-handedly wipe out the opposing forces with ice without taking a single life. During this time, the Ikarugan ninjas were wrapped up in fights against the other Inoue forces, with Bang Shishigami leading the charge and evacuating the Watatsumi population. The Inoue then torched Watatsumi Castle and numerous buildings within the city, while Jin continued his charge along to the castle. Oh, look at that! This is how BlazBlue Variable Heart starts. Anyway, Bang ran to the burning castle to save Tenjo, who gave him the Tenjo with her soul in it. Jin arrived soon after, effortlessly defeated the ninja after freezing the room with his Arctic Dungeon technique, leaving an X-shaped scar across his face. Tenjo told Jin that she was only a doll that would give birth to death, and asked that she be cut down to fight back against death itself. She threw a charm at the first lieutenant, and he struck her with Yukikaze, killing her. With Tenjo's death, the war was over. Honoka appeared and revealed that he was actually Hazama. Terumi then used his version of Mind Eater to take away Jin's memories, causing him to lose recollection of the events with Tenjo. Terumi and Hazama then took Tenjo's corpse and replaced it with another one. Immediately following the news of Tenjo's death, the soldiers of the Ikaruga Federation lost their will to fight and the Federation surrendered. Some soldiers in the Inoue attempted to continue the slaughter, but Jin ordered that no more lives were to be taken. After the end of the war, Jin was awarded by the Inoue with the title of Hero of Ikaruga and a promotion of 2 ranks to Major, becoming the youngest commander of a squadron in Inoue history. Taro, Noel, Tsubaki Yayoi, and Makoto Naniya attended the ceremony for his promotion. Bang evacuated the remainder of the survivors from Ikaruga to Kagatsuchi, where they built and settled in the district of Ronin-gai. The Ikaruga Civil War cast the Inoue in a bad light, as citizens took the destruction of Ibukido and Watatsumi as a heavy-handed demonstration of the Inoue strength. Even years after the war had ended, Ibukido and Watatsumi were unable to recover, but the other 4 cities of the Ikaruga Federation eventually received restoration efforts thanks to Kagura. Ultimately, Sector 7's attempts to create Black Beast failed, but the amount of deaths that occurred considerably sped up the process to awaken Izanami. Tenjo, one cause of the war, had also been eliminated. The NOL was ultimately declared the victor and the Ikaruga Federation dissolved. The war did more than destroy Ikaruga and the lives of its citizens by affecting the lives of many others. Lot Carmen, who was present during the attack on the Sector 7 base that housed Nirvana, dealt with this trauma by throwing himself further into his research on the boundary, eventually leading him to become Arcune after some manipulation by Terumi. Ragnar was left without family, was raised by Jubei. 1 year after the war had ended, Ragnar began to destroy NOL branches and after a few years, searched for Saya. Kagura was later assigned to look after the Ikaruga region, becoming its reigning lord. Privately, he remained loyal to Homura and stayed in contact with Kokonoe. In February, 2200 AD, Bang was made aware of Homura's survival and was reunited with him. Izanami later was awakened earlier that year and then advocated her position to Homura before starting Doomsday and announcing it to the citizens of the world. So yeah, that was a majority, like that's pretty much everything about the Ikaruga Civil War, from like the beginning through Spiral Shift through some parts of Variable Heart. We even went through stuff like from Chrome Phantasm as well. It's also the participants. On the NOL side, we have Mai-Fang, who was the head of the Wings of Justice then. We get to do some members like the Muski family. Obviously, Kagura was the leader of the Muski family. He was secretly conspired with Kokonoe and Tenjo. He's also Tenjo's former pupil. Members of the Kisaraga and the Yayoi families, the Ninth Squadron, like Grimwood, Carajane, Jin, Hazama. There was also another member they had named Owl, but we don't have a page on him, so I can't really say much. The Ikaruga Federation side had Tenjo, who was the former Imperator of the NOL, who was secretly overthrown and headed the Ikaruga Federation, and now is dead. Homura Amano Hokusaka, who is Tenjo's child and actually the true heir to the NOL. And Bang Shishigami, who was the head of the Ikaruga Ninja, who was entrusted with the Fiends for Tenjo by Tenjo. We got the Sector 7 side, which is the committee that leads Sector 7. Then we have Kokonoe as a part of it. Then obviously Tager's a part of it. Lot Karma, aka Arcune, Bullet's Mercenary Squad, who was hired to retrieve the Deus Machina of Nirvana, and they all died except Bullet and Tager, who made it alive. And then there was Azrael, who was hired by a committee member to increase the head count. So, there's that. There's also other members who Terumi manipulated both Sector 7 and the NOL to awaken Izanami. Realized did the same. Obviously, Takamaka played a part in it because they were the ones who nuked Ibukido. Edgar and Claire Vermilion, who were the heads of who were the members of the Vermilion family who had a stake in the war. Honestly, Noel and Mu had a stake in it because they were created around the time, and Lambda as well. And that's pretty much all of that. Other than the actual, other than the library entries for Central Fiction. But other than that, yeah, that's everything involving Spiral Shift in a way. I feel like there could have been more to go through, but honestly, I feel like I think that's enough. I wasn't trying to go and delve into any further along with stuff from like Mai-Fang, but I had to just to be on the safe side. So yeah, that's everything involving Spiral Shift. So yeah, I will see you all next time for another homework video. I might do Phase Shift, but I'm not guaranteeing that because Phase Shift is a long light novel. And it's not that much. If it's translated, I want to check it out, but I don't want to make it a reading video. I feel like that would be really boring. So I'll think about it. But yeah, I'll see you all next time. Peace out, everyone. Hope you have a great day.